And since it's 10 o'clock, all right, I'm gonna give Dylan Butler an amazing amount of credit.
Oh, amazing amount.
I'm going to give you, sir, an amazing amount of credit.
All right.
Because we read your story about El Trafico.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I looked at,
the timeline,
the timestamp.
Yeah.
The timestamp.
Here's on that.
Man, 2:25 on a timestamp.
Yep.
And it was a long night for you. And you went through everything that Steve Gerundolo said in a 2-1 loss. First off, what? How serious is that cup of coffee, and what's the mug this morning?
We are blessed, I guess, right? To be awake. It's cup number 1.
Okay.
I had to drop my daughter off at summer camp this morning, so bright and early up this morning, so not much sleep last night, but it was worth it. It was what El Trafico, what you hope it to be, right? Like, it wasn't the 4 goals that you always see, but plenty of drama, some incredible plays. 82,000 pack in the Rose Bowl, right? It was on the East Coast. You only wish it was an earlier game, but listen, you get it. It was well worth the 4 hours plus of sleep that I got last night.
So did you budget in a nap leading into it, or
Yeah, no, I'm an idiot. So what I budgeted in between, so I had the MLS shift from 9 to 2 yesterday.
Okay.
And then I had match night 23 from 7:30 on.
Mm-hmm.
So what I budgeted in between that was 2 hours of yard work and mowing, and by the end of it, I looked like my shirt and everything. I looked like I had just played a 90-minute match in Houston in the afternoon. It was brutal. So I got a shower. I got a little bit of a small break, I guess you can call it, and then on to the match night. So
okay. Bam, our resident Australian viewer listener, has been pretty much hot all through the first hour of the show because we talked about your story and LAG getting the win. And Bam is living in Australia, and he's in charge of the LAFC podcast, big LAFC fan down there, and he hangs out with us. He said for him a 12:45 in the afternoon kick was perfect because, Australia.
Sure.
And what the hell is wrong with LAFC? I'm just going to phrase it that way. What the hell's wrong with them right now?
I mean, it's a great question, right? You can't. I don't think, and I think to Cherundolo's credit, you can talk about the call-ups and the injuries and all that kind of stuff, but he's not seemingly using that as an excuse. He's look, he said it's not exclusive to LAFC, right? How many times have we come on here and talked about these different teams who have a host of injuries, Sporting Kansas City, others, right? You just got to deal with it. It's MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were a deep team, so I thought that they'd be able to weather the congestion of the early season schedule, the run to CCL, call-ups and injuries. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that way. I mean, over the course of 90 minutes, just from an observer in New York watching on my TV, it just felt like the Galaxy, and I hate to simplify it this much, it just felt like the Galaxy wanted it more, right? And you even saw that, you even heard Taylor Twellman talking about it so perfectly on that last goal from Ricky Pooch. He just made that run. He was willing himself to get in that box, and no one was going to get that ball, and you didn't feel that same sense of urgency, I thought, from LAFC. Now, that being said, as I said in the article, the West, as it is very, very forgiving, right? So they've been on this horrible run They've lost 3 in a row in the league, 8 of 11. Obviously, dropped the Champions League, but they're like a win or two away from being top of the table in the West, right? So we are certainly seeing at this part of the season how crazy good and how wild the East is going to be, and kind of how mediocre the West is right now.
I mean, you look at the standings, and because we can extrapolate, folks. All caps SC would be fourth-ish, I think, or fourth or fifth. Actually, they'd be fourth because goal difference has them at plus 15. So all caps, if they were in the East, City SC, they would be fourth right now because of Columbus at 35 points. Then Seattle and LAFC, both at 32 points, and they would be 7th and 8th in the East right now. That's where the top 3 teams in the West would be if you moved them over into the Eastern Conference right now. You mentioned just how absolutely, wacky, crazy, stupid it is. And
imagine having that single table like England or Germany or every other country.
Yeah, I know. And then you got to look at wins as your tiebreakers and things like that. Thank you, Nick. And trying to figure out, all right, who's gonna fit where. As we get into happy transfer window for those who celebrate.
Yeah.
Who needs to do some serious damage here in the trade window? I guess we could treat this as red light, yellow light, green light. Okay, who needs to do the most? Who needs to boogie the most in the transfer window? Who's kind of cool as they are, and who can kind of do a tweak one way or the other? Who could sit there and go, okay, you do one or two things and you could do really well? Who has to make the most out of this window right now in Major League Soccer?
Well, I guess along with that is sort of like who's got the ability to and who would be a contender, right? Like I think Toronto FC, as an example, are just dead in the middle, right? Like they can't do anything. They're guys that they spend a lot of money on are headbutting dudes, and it's just not a good look in Toronto. So I wouldn't say Toronto. I think certainly I think NYCFC will make a move for a number 9. They'll figure that dude out. So they'll do their thing, and we already know what Salt Lake did, which is an incredible move. I think I'm team Real Salt Lake in the West at this point because they've been really, really low key good, right? Like when you can get as many points as they have on the road. Now they haven't won at home, obviously, but you bring a Chicho Arango into that. Diego Luna's doing his thing. Damir Kreilach is healthy again. They're good, man. Like I think they're a team to look out for. So they've already obviously done their business there by getting a number 9. I think Atlanta's going to do some work, obviously. I think they're setting themselves up to make a big move. I think this window is going to be really interesting just because of so many teams in the mix, and I don't know if it's catching up or trying to keep up with Inter Miami, but it feels like for your team to be relevant, you need to make some sort of a splash in this window. Now we know that LAG cannot.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in what they can do too, right? Like sort of how do you tweak and maneuver and kind of backdoor your way into maybe getting a winger somewhere?
Well, and you mentioned Messi and friends. And so let me posit it this way. How many folks should just look at what they're attempting to do and sit there and go, that's their dance. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're going to spend $11 billion, and that's on them if they want to spend it on 30-somethings and still not fix their defense and whatever, Then other folks are going to sit there and go, oh, my God, RSL has done what they've done. Inter Miami's doing what they're doing, and it's the scene of Kevin in Home Alone going up and down the hallway trying to figure out, it's like, who is going to line themselves up in mass panic like that, and then who should just kind of sit there and go like, bruh, I think that we're going to do our thing. Don't worry about that. But the shiny objects always seem to get you, though.
For sure, yeah, and I think the teams that I think the team look, a lot of teams have those identities, right? Like in the league, we know Red Bull, for example, and they're not going to go out and get that 30-something La Liga star, right? Like that's not the way they do it anymore. I wish they would, because it was fun, covering the likes of Thierry Henry when he was here, and Tim Cahill and the like. But Rafa Marquez not so much. But
no.
But they have their way of doing things, right? Philly have their way of doing things. We know that NYCFC, similar to like in Atlanta, they'll go and they'll find that young South American up and coming player and bring him in, right? Like that's just the way that they do their business. Others, their identity is sort of, we're not sure, like Chicago, Salt Lake, like LAFC, similar. Well, they're kind of a mixed bag, I guess, right? Because like they do bring in the young up and coming player, but they also obviously go out and spend a lot on a Bale and a Chiellini and guys like that. So, again, I think the teams that we mentioned will do business in this window, and with so many teams alive with the extra playoff spots as well, I think it's going to make this an even busier secondary transfer window than we've seen before, right? Because there's so many teams it's not a good look, I think, if you don't make the playoffs in a year where you expand the playoff field. So
yeah.
Hey, I know Bam is watching, listening. I got a is he hitting up a couple of those Women's World Cup matches? Watching the Matildas, maybe?
I don't know. That's a good question. Bam, are you going to be doing Women's World Cup stuff? Our previous guest, Bart Keeler, who does the Soccer for US podcast, is going down.
Nice.
And so Bart is leaving after I think it's the Vietnam match on the 21st. He's leaving to go down, and he's not just going to be spending time watching the U.S. He does have U.S. tickets, but he's going to be in both Australia and New Zealand. And so he'll be bouncing back and forth. And Bam says hopefully he's going to make it to games, but his work schedule could make it tough. That whole real world thing getting in the way.
Yeah, for sure. How about 80,000 for Australia's first match against Ireland over here?
Fantastic. And
by the way, just a shameless plug for OSDB, just did this past Monday 10 players to watch, and it was fun. It was like a mix of of the names of the Alex Morgans and the Martas, but also bringing in some younger players, maybe who are up and coming. Who this could be a big Lauren Hemp, for example, for England. This could be a big World Cup for them. So a mix there for OSDB. And then this upcoming Monday, we will look at, we already took a look at the contenders. We'll look at teams that are maybe on that next grouping that we expect should get out of the group stage and maybe make a push. Australia being one of them.
Okay, so since you've gone down this road, we'll go down this road. And also we have one of our correspondents is going to be one of the students at the journalism school at the University of Georgia, and they have a group that is going down to cover the group stage.
That's awesome.
And so he's a guy that we've worked with and doing play-by-play for colleges and things like that. And so he's now at the University of Georgia in their graduate program for journalism. They're going down, and he's going to be a part of it too. So we'll have Bart and Luke Winstel, hopefully, if we can figure out the times, coming on live on the show with us to talk about stuff. To your OSDB column story that has just posted, let me ask you this. You said you had 10. Mm-hmm. How difficult was it to get to 10, and who did you have to leave off if it was difficult to get to 10?
I didn't do it. I hear what you're saying. A lot of times when you do a list, like you just sort of like off the top of your head, start throwing names, and maybe you have 15 and 20, and then you got to whittle it down. So it wasn't hard to get to 10, but I didn't go beyond 10, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I did the list. I said, we have one more. I'm going to go with this player. Like, so I didn't. I'm sure. Look, there's certainly players that I've left off. There's no doubt about it. But what's really fun, I think, in this, you've got Ballon d'Or winners, you've got World Cup winners, you've got European Championship winners, all in that mix. So like when you have that sort of resume, it's a little bit hard to certainly leave them off, but to go someone else. But like I said, I wanted to try to mix it up. I went with like a Sam Kerr, obviously, as a household name, and a Marta and Alex Morgan, like I said, but like a Lauren Hemp, with the injuries up front that England have, I think she's going to play a prominent role for them. But a lot of, Sophia Smith, I think this could be her breakout. I'm not breaking news there. I think a lot of people are thinking that for the U.S.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a look at sort of, different players, different teams. But one thing I thought was interesting with a Brazil, and I don't have them as one of the teams, one of the favorites, but I do have them as a team that could make some noise, is a lot of the chatter from them is they're trying to treat this World Cup with Marta as a similar to what Argentina did with Messi.
Yeah.
So they're trying to win it from Marta as they did with Messi, because this would appear to be her last World Cup. So, that motivation, that extra motivation should be interesting.
From our friends at Vegas Insider, Brazil is in the top 10, by the way.
Fair, because I think I had 5 and 5. So yeah, that makes sense.
Brazil is at a plus 2,800, courtesy of our friends at Bet365. And Japan is also at plus 2,800. So I guess they're both T9. Netherlands are 8th at a plus 2,500. Sweden is a plus 1,800. Australia, there's a big gap between 6 and 7. Australia is number 6 at plus 1,000. Understandably so. France at a plus 900 is number 5. Germany is plus 600 along with Spain, so they're T3. So that leaves England at a plus 300 at number 2, and the U.S. favored at Bet365 at a plus 225.
Let's see. What did I have for my contender? I'm going to go back. It doesn't match up exactly, but I had the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I had England. I had Germany. I had Sweden.
Okay.
And France.
Okay, so
those are my 5.
1, 2, 4, 5, 7, according to Bet365. That's what you've got.
And I can't tell you my next 5 because that'll be on Monday.
Then that's what I'm saying. I don't want you. It's like I want to drive people to. People to the article. I'm looking for traffic.
But I do have. What are the other ones you mentioned?
What?
Australia.
You had 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. You had USA, England, Germany, France, 1, 2, 4, 5. Australia's at 6, Sweden's at 7, Spain was at number 3, and then there's a big gap between 7 and 8, with Netherlands, Japan, Brazil 8, 9, 10.
Netherlands, Japan, Brazil. So I would say that I've got at least a few different teams on there for my knockout round contenders.
Okay. That you've got Canada at a plus 4,000 outside the top 10.
They might be there in mine.
Norway is at a plus 5,000.
They also might be there.
South Korea is at a plus 5,000. I mean, so you're giving folks some juice box, some juice boxy and stuff here, man. I mean, folks are sitting there and they go to OSDB. They sit there and look at Dylan's and they look at Bet365. They go, oh, okay, man, the plus 5,000. Maybe I'll put a couple of juice boxes from the back of the fridge on some of that stuff. I see how this works. Bam has a non-related football question.
Yeah.
And wanted to know if you got to make it to San Diego for the lacrosse championships and your thoughts on how Denmark went.
I wish I did. That would have been amazing. I've not been I've not been to San Diego. Have only heard great things about it. I didn't watch the championship game live because of MLSing on Saturday night. Tried to stay off of socials as best I could.
Yeah.
I was spoiled, but then I watched the U.S. Canada championship game on Sunday morning. I gotta say, like, I know this is very much well past Wednesday-ish, but like international rules for lacrosse are terrible. Like, there's no shot clock. That's the biggest one. There's no shot clock. Like, and it's running time. Like, it's so bad. Like, I don't get it. Like, you would think the international game would be right up with what college and the pros have. Like the shot clock is coming to high schools in New York in 2 years' time. Like, how do you have an international competition and not have a shot clock? It's crazy. And I said, by the way, on our Slack chat last night during all the matches in MLS, is there a crazier position to play in sports than lacrosse goalie?
Especially indoor lacrosse.
No, but at least then you're super padded up. Like, you look like you're a bullet.
Yeah.
In the outdoor game, like, you've got like really very little padding. Like, you've got a chest protector, you've got a helmet, maybe a neck protector, some shoulder pads, but there's below the waist, you've got nothing going on there, and it's like 100 miles an hour plus these balls. Like, a hockey goalie is crazy as well, but at least, again, you're padded up.
Mm-hmm.
These lacrosse goalies are a different breed.
Yeah, and for those not familiar, do a little your required reading on the day. I think it was in the Guardian. There's a great story on the Haudenosaunee and how they are trying to chase after world titles too. So very, very cool stuff there. Toronto FC popped in. Yeah, exactly. Universal laughter out amongst the stars, paraphrasing our friend Jimmy Buffett. Another red for them in play. Bernadeschi again decided that he wanted to, push and maul and do whatever. It just seems like it's completely and totally off the rails. I mean,
and he seems like he doesn't want to be there, right? Like, when you have a red like that, like, you realize that, one, your team is already shorthanded. You're on the road. You're in Orlando. Your team is struggling. Like, you're a veteran. Like, you would think your reaction is more to help your team out. And then he does that nonsense. And then you see him smirking, kind of leaving the field. That's not a good look. That, I mentioned his name before, that echoes back to a Rafa Marquez. Like, just, not given any issues when he was with the Red Bulls. So, I don't know. It is a colossal mess there. Now, that being said, I think they're gonna. It's still a very desirable place to go if you're a manager, right? Yeah. So they should land probably a big name there, right? Like, we've seen some names, obviously, sort of being banned.
Okay, so who have you seen get floated out there?
I mean, I think just from the previous kind of stuff, like, you would hear about Vieira, where he had interviewed when Armas got the job. You hear the folks on MLS 360 talking about a Gattuso or others of that ilk. I don't know. I mean, at least Vieira's got the MLS backgrounds.
Yeah. And so I understand that. I mean, that before he took the gig at Strasbourg, I mean, I understand that idea of having a Patrick Vieira attached to something like that. And that Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is going to spend money.
Yes.
That they Bill Manning is just like, and the one thing that got to me, and it was a quote from Manning, and it kind of rubbed me the absolute wrong way, where Manning, after the after the firing, he has his thing. And let me find the quote. Okay. Left no doubt how he feels about Insigne and Bernadeschi's contributions. We do expect them to help lead this team to victory. Does Manning care how exactly the team get back to winning ways? No, quote, I want to win. No one remembers how you play. I don't want to describe a style of play. I don't want Bill Manning saying things like that. I understand the idea about, just win, baby, and just win and get out of the cellar. But I don't want my big boss saying that kind of stuff when you're trying to bring in a coach. It's like, I don't care. I don't care. You want to have a philosophy. You want to have a style of play. No one remembers how you play. I don't want to describe a style of play. What is that from Bill Manning?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if you could call it a glass half full, because maybe a quarter full here, but I would maybe a little bit to his defense.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are big Law and Order fans, so this is a hard one to defend. But I would say, if I was a defense lawyer here, that maybe he's just trying to open it up to all possible candidates.
Okay.
Where he's saying, listen, if he says we want to play attractive football, we want to kick the ball around, we want to knock it around, keep possession. Now that maybe means, I don't know, a Red Bull-ish coach, Jesse Marsh, for example, wouldn't be interested in that. You know what I mean? Like, so no, I don't think they're going to go and press, obviously, not with the group they have. But I think maybe if I were to defend him here, Your Honor, I would say that's maybe what I would come up with. It's more about talking through the press to potential candidates, saying we are open to all.
And I mean, that is, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with the Shambhala Green, Daniel Melman approach when it comes to defense attorneys here. It's just, when you see someone who is of that stature, and like I said, I'm not going to look at it like your defense attorneys, even though the marathon was great last night because they were in season 4, so it was some early stuff. I want to have quotes from my big boss sitting there saying, all right, I want us to do X, Y, and Z. I want to have this I want to have this team doing this so we can build on it going forward. So that means that we need these kinds of players that want to be here, that kind of a thing. So, I mean, that was kind of where I was staring at it with Bill Manning. And then you lose to the purple team 4-0, and that kind of sent folks sideways. I think they're reading more. I don't know if folks are reading more into it because it was 4-0 and Toronto just isn't that good. And then Orlando, they're doing well. And then Oscar Pereja, God bless him, he tries to find ways not to make the playoffs later in the year. But
I mean, they saw a wounded team and they took care of their business, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's basically what you could say with what Orlando did. And they put their foot down and made sure that they got those 3 points. They didn't keep Toronto in the game. Toronto didn't keep themselves in the game, obviously, but I think a job well done there. And then the other talking point from last night, I think, is a big win for DC.
Yeah.
Without a Benteke, who was one of, I think, 38 players suspended on yellow card accumulation last night. It was the night of the yellow card accumulation suspensions.
Yes. It sounds like a George Romero movie.
And they moved things around, and Tyler Miller was not in goal, which Wayne Rooney kind of danced around. They said, listen, we wanted to have some fresh legs and fresh minds. Tyler
Miller goes walkabout. That's just how he's wired.
Because he said, because there's only one goalie, obviously there's more attention on that position. But I thought a really good 3 points for them as they now go home and take on Miami, who are awaiting Tata's arrival, and Messi and friends, and exactly. Joseph doing his thing last night with an incredible goal.
Yeah, from 10 yards out. So that's pretty much, where Joseph is. But all right. So, what is your weekend like? Getting ready for what did you get? Please tell me that you at least got the early matches on Saturday to look at.
No, I mean basically the way it goes on a Saturday is I kind of kick off at 8:30 ish.
Okay.
Basically when I get my daughter to bed, and then it's 8:30 on till end.
Okay. All right. So just wanted to double check. Just so go get your coffee, go get your nap, and
Yeah,
continue.
nap. You're funny.
Hey.
Pickup is at noon.
Well, okay. Because I was thinking it's like, all right, summer camp. I was thinking it might be a little longer than just.
Yeah, no, I wish. My daughter was asking me like, "Did you go to summer camp, Daddy, when you were a kid?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Your grandma sent me away for 2 months to go away camp
All day.
the
All
whole
day.
I was at night though. I was gone for 2 months.
Yeah. It's like you're out of here. Done. So yeah, I had summer camp too, but it was 10 miles from the house or 10 minutes from the house, and all you had to do is be there at like 7:30 in the morning, and then they pick you up at 5. You spent
No, mine was a bus. I think it was a bus in Manhattan. I think we left from in maybe early July, early August. Early August, she's able to go up. It was honestly, now that I think back to it, it was almost like I was imprisoned because she had a 2-day, I think, visitation between July and August, and then August through, and then the bus came back to Manhattan, and that was it. And maybe a week or two later, it's time for school. So
yeah, it's like, and then Labor Day.
Not rid of me.
So there you go. I'm right there with you. All right, my friend, get in your cat nap and be there with your daughter, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, buddy.